Dan and I met, I was pretty young. I think I was only about 19. He was a good friend of my oldest brother's. He asked me out a few years later and I told him no because I thought my brother would flip. And when I told my brother about it, he said, "Oh, Dan's the only friend I have that I would let you go out with." And we started dating in 1999. We married in 2002 and then started planning our family. We had a good life together. He was kind of like my knight in shining armor. He was an amazing dad. He was my boys, he was their best friend. He took care of us. I stayed home and took care of the kids. We shared household chores. He coached our son's baseball, their little league team. He was very involved.
Dan was the rock of the Stokes family. He idolized his two sons idolized him. Dan spent every waking moment with his boys when he wasn't working.
Dan was determined to be the healthiest he could be. He had some varicose veins that he didn't like and wanted to get taken care of. So he went to see the doctor who performed radio frequency abrasion on his varicose vein that was in his upper thigh. To the best of my knowledge, they heat the vein until basically it dies. We came home, went back in a week for a checkup. Doctor said everything was going well. He fell sick. We thought he had the flu. It was so bad that we called an ambulance. The ambulance took him to the hospital and we found out that area that he had the vein procedure done was severely infected and he became sepsis. The sepsis took over his organs. He couldn't fight the infection. And I lost him on April 29th to septic shock.
Amy and their two children, Ethan and Justin, were devastated. Dan Stokes' case was a very complex and challenging case. Dan had two medical conditions that made him immunocompromised. He had rheumatoid arthritis and he had diabetes. It makes them more susceptible to developing infections. There was no urgency to performing this surgery. This wasn't life-saving surgery. It was elective surgery. The surgeon could have and should have stopped that medication so that the surgeon could have appropriately managed the risk of infection regarding the elective surgery. The surgeon failed to appropriately understand and appreciate the risks of Dan's underlying medical condition and the immunosuppressive medication that he was on and appropriately manage that before performing the surgery. He should have stopped the medication for 1 to 2 cycles and not restarted it until Dan had completed the healing process following the surgical procedure. Dan was the primary breadwinner for the family. He had a management position at a local company. She was forced with some very difficult choices moving forward. She was a young widow, single mom now, raising 2 very young children.
The things I liked the most about Jason, he was very compassionate that he showed towards me and my boys. His hard work ethic. The process was very easy from my end. Jason did all of the heavy lifting. I didn't really have to do anything.
When I meet with clients like Amy and learn about their tragedies, my heart obviously breaks for them, but it motivates me and drives me to pursue justice on their behalf.
Jason worked hard for me, harder than anybody I know. And there's not a doubt in my mind that if anybody else is unfortunately going through something like I went through, that Matzus Law is the way to go. They go above and beyond to make sure that you get what you deserve. And now, because of that, both of my boys can go to college without any worries about how do we pay for this.